If you thought that Republicans would figure out a way to get their house in order after the first rumblings of a fallout between Elon Musk and the rest of the elected officials in the GOP, you'd be wrong. Elon took to Twitter today writing, "Call your senator, call your congressman. Bankrupting America is not okay. Kill the bill." And of course, the bill is in reference to the reconciliation bill that the entire Republican Party has rallied behind. And what Elon's tweet suggests is that this dispute is going to be resolved in full view of the public, much to the chagrin of somebody like Mike Johnson, who seemed intent on litigating this where the GOP is most comfortable, behind closed doors.
Well, I'll tell you, I called Elon last night and he didn't answer, but I hope to talk to him today. I mean, it's not, it's very friendly, and we've laughed about our differences on policy before. And then yesterday, 24 hours later, he does a 180 and he comes out and opposes the bill. And it surprised me, frankly. And I don't take it personal. We don't take it personal. Policy differences are not personal. I think he's flat wrong. I think he's way off on this, and I've told him as much, and I've said it publicly and privately. I'm very consistent in that. I talk to President Trump, all the time, multiple times a day. Obviously, we've talked about this. As you know, he's not delighted that Elon did a 180 on that. But look, I don't know what happened in 24 hours. Everybody can draw their own conclusions about that, okay? But I look forward to talking to my friend about it again, and I'm not upset about it, all right?
Yes, what could it have possibly been that got Elon so upset? Truly one of life's great mysteries. Unless...
Brought up EV mandates when you were talking about Musk basics. Is that what you think is his motivation for opposing the bill?
Manu brought up EV mandates, not me, okay? and I said that everybody can draw their own conclusions about that. Look, I don't subscribe motive to anybody. I try not to do that. It's a good way to live. I just believe that we got to do the right thing by way of policy, and I hope everybody understands. They might not think the bill is perfect in some respect. I mean, a bill that's 1,100 pages long and covers every area of policy and the budget that ours does. Very few people are going to say that's a perfect piece of legislation.
Well, there you go. Couldn't possibly be that because Mike Johnson didn't bring it up. CNN's Manu Raju brought it up. Right?
It's a very important first start. Elon is missing it, okay? And it's not personal. I know that the EV mandate, very important to him, that is going away because the government should not be subsidizing these things. It's part of the Green New Deal, and I know that has an effect on his business, and I lament that. We talked about the ramp down period on that and how that should be duly considered by Congress, but for him to come out and pan the whole bill is to me just very disappointing, very surprising in light of the conversation I had with him yesterday.
Do you think that it's Tesla is what's driving this? Is that what you're suggesting?
I'm going to let others draw their own conclusions about that, but this is not personal between any of us. I just deeply regret that he's made this mistake.
Don't you just hate it when reality gets in the way of your talking points? Yeah, it looks like we've scratched all of 1 inch beneath the surface and figured out why Elon Musk hates this bill. It's because tucked away in this big, beautiful bill are a few provisions that hurt Elon's own business. For example, it would phase out the consumer tax credit for EVs worth up to $7,500 for new electric vehicles after 2026. It would also end tax credits for used EVs and commercial vehicles. And finally, it proposes a new $250 annual fee for EV drivers imposed by the Federal Highway Administration. And so it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out why Elon might not like this bill. And so because Elon Musk feels entitled to everything and anything now, he'll try to kill this bill because it includes provisions that are unfavorable to him and his businesses. And in fairness, that are just shit provisions in general. But it goes to the sense of entitlement that Elon has, ironically enough, thanks to these Republicans themselves. They embolden him to feel empowered to dictate what happens in the government because all of these people, for months and months and months, were collectively too chicken shit to speak out as he was running roughshod over the government. In other words, this is the monster that Frankenstein created. And now that the monster is coming after them, are we really supposed to be surprised? But it's important to note that the blame isn't just on these congressional Republicans for emboldening Elon to do what he's doing now. Let's also not pretend that Elon himself is some saint here. The guy really expects credit for caring about the deficit when he came into office with a mandate to cut $2 trillion in spending, his words, not mine. And instead of going after the biggest purveyors of waste, fraud, and abuse, like, for example, the Pentagon, he goes after USAID, which accounts for all of 0.5% of the budget, a program that delivers clean water and HIV prevention and soft power benefits across the world. But hey, USAID was investigating Starlink, and we couldn't possibly have that, so it was gutted. A mandate to cut $2 trillion in spending, and he went after the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, whose only job is to protect consumers who've been defrauded by predatory banks and financial institutions. But again, the CFPB was fielding complaints about Tesla, and so it was gutted. In fact, every single agency that Elon went after during his time at Doge, USAID, CFPB, Department of Labor, National Labor Relations Board, the EPA, the Department of Transportation, the USDA, all of them just so happen to be performing oversight into him or SpaceX or Starlink or Tesla. And so all of those agencies were, in some fashion, gutted. In total, Elon's promised $2 trillion in cuts whittled down to $18 billion, which is not even 1% of the promised cuts. And that's because Elon wasn't actually interested in cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. He was interested in gutting the agencies regulating him and his business interests. That's it. That's what this was. It was self-dealing with virtuous window dressing attached, which is to say nothing of the fact that he also managed to nab some real juicy government contracts, like the $560 million for SpaceX since January 2025, the $5.9 billion Pentagon contracts for the National Security Space Launch Program, the $38.8 million NASA contract awarded in February. The White House is now using Starlink. The FAA is exploring a deal with Starlink to help modernize air traffic control. And you know that Golden Dome nonsense that Trump has been selling for a couple of weeks now? Yeah, guess who's the frontrunner in a bid for that project to the tune of $25 billion? That would be SpaceX. Most of that funding comes from the Pentagon, which might explain why, despite this purported crusade against waste, fraud, and abuse, the only agency that emerged unscathed was the one agency that cannot pass an audit for its life, the Pentagon. The poster child for waste, fraud, and abuse didn't get touched by the commission purportedly committed to rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse. Someone square that circle for me. Again, this has nothing to do with saving money for the country and everything to do with saving money for Elon Musk himself. The reality is that the entire GOP is responsible for the mess that this bill has created because everyone is looking out for themselves. The Republicans want their tax cuts to hoard more money. Elon wants his EV credits to sell more cars so he can hoard more money. Everyone wants to hoard more money, and it's millions upon millions of regular Americans who have to pay the price with less healthcare, less food assistance, and an exploding national debt that no one has any interest in getting under control. Today's Republican Party can't teach us much other than a masterclass in what kleptocracy looks like in real time. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a way for me to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link right here on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.